This magic moment.
Now, this magic moment. Orlando rises.
That's the winners for the Magic.
Legends live.
Here's Hardaway. He'll hammer home on Ewing. Oh, baby.
And the magic is real.
Yes, it's over.
Strap in. It's showtime with RJ Saunders.
It is this magic moment here on 1010XL Magic. RJ Saunders here with you. We so appreciate you guys being here with us. The Orlando Magic now seemingly looking for answers as they lose a tough one in a matchup that honestly felt all but competitive as the team falls by a final score of 124-97 at the hands of LaMelo Ball and the Charlotte Hornets. They now look to turn things around as they will be welcoming in the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Kia Center tomorrow. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel as we'll have some great things coming up for you here soon, including going to the Orlando Magic contest against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We are trying to get you guys some great content, some great coverage, pre-game, in-game, and post-game. We are trying to do a lot here on this channel for the Orlando Magic fan. We do not want for you guys to miss out on a thing. So there's a lot of news that's surrounding this Orlando Magic ball club. One of the biggest stories is that of change. Changes. Do they need to be made in more ways than one at this point of the regular season? This is, in my opinion, and maybe we get to start using the word was, probably a Magic team that was looked at as a roster that would soar in the Eastern Conference this season. Now, over this last stretch, it feels like this may be a team that'll be lucky to tread water and make it to the playoffs and once again have a first-round exit. Now, I'm not jumping ship on this team. That's not the type of person I am when it comes to this squad. However, following the loss to the Hornets, who, albeit over the last handful of games, have been the top squad offensively, and LaMelo Ball has been balling out of control, you didn't think that a team, even with Franz and Suggs being out, you'd have these issues on the floor. Issues that feel, to me, reoccurring. And it's further impacted by the fact that Paolo Banchero seems to no longer want to be quiet about that. Take a listen to the Magic Star postgame.
I think it's really similar to the past couple seasons if you really look at it, I mean, last year wasn't a great season. We had tough times, a lot of bad losses last year. Year before, we won 47 games, probably our best year. But I think it's something that's occurred, over and over again the last few seasons. So, I think we just got to figure out a way to put an end to it. And, if we want to be a contender or whatever you want to call it, a team that's going to play deep into the playoffs, we gotta go out there and be different. We can't just stay the same. And, right now it feels like we have the same issues as the past. And now our defense is slipping, which makes it look worse. Like you said, our defense covered a lot of that in the past, and now that's slipping. And so those problems start to be magnified when you can't lean on your defense. And I think that's something we got to figure out.
With that comment, there are a lot of questions in which the Magic need to answer now. Defensively, yes, the Magic seem to be regressing, and you are seeing that in large part to how they've started games over this last stretch. Over your last 3 games, you're giving teams a double-digit head start, and sure, that has a lot to deal with the fact that Memphis and Charlotte started off absolutely hot from distance. The Hornets, in this last game in which you played, they buried 47% of their threes. They had 16 second chance points. All 5 Hornet starters were in double figures. However, it also feels to me that when the shots aren't falling for Orlando and you aren't speaking on the rotations in which you need to make and you're playing that scramble game, you aren't doing yourselves any favors on either end. This is head coach Jamal Mosley post-game saying that how the team played offensively impacted and dictated how they played defensively.
We let our offense impact our defense. Shots didn't fall. We stopped guarding. It's unacceptable.
Is it surprising to you that the defense still continues to not find its rhythm or whatever is happening on that end of the floor?
It is a little shocking. You got to give the Hornets a ton of credit, the way they came out and played. They played last night. They got beat. They responded with a sense of urgency, the way they came out. Obviously 35 in that first quarter. But shots didn't fall, and we let it impact our defense.
You
sit down and guard. You sit down and guard the damn basketball. That's what you do. You take it personally when guys blow by you. You take it personally when your teammate gets scored on, when you get scored on, and guys are getting easy baskets. And they hit some tough ones early that are a little deflating, but then when they do miss, you go box out, hit somebody, and get a damn rebound. That's what you do.
Many fans have discussed it. The vibe is off. The vibe is absolutely off with this team. Something is not right. And I don't know if it's the head coach, Jamal Mosley. Many want to say that it is, and in a vacuum, I understand your argument. He hasn't made, in my mind, the right rotations more times than not. In my opinion, he hasn't called the timeouts when necessary. I'm not defending the man, but for the second year in a row, he's dealt with a team that hasn't been the healthiest bunch. And you thought that Franz would be back against Charlotte. And a couple of moments before the game, he's ruled out with an ankle injury. Now you want to monitor that. So you feel like you're taking 2 steps forward, getting your other franchise cornerstone out there on the floor. But now you have to hold your breath a little bit and see how he responds yet again to treatment. And how does he look? And how does his body feel? Because you don't want to lose him in the long term if he's able to come back healthier than what he is right now. Big picture, the rebuild is over if you are the Orlando Magic. You have to start making winning moves now. This just doesn't seem, in my opinion, to be a funk. This doesn't seem to be a bad, quote-unquote, last couple of games. This has developed into a pattern. And I believe Jeff Weltman and company need to make decisions when it comes to how this squad moves forward, faster than fast and quicker than quick. I do not believe that Jeff Weltman can end the year on another trading deadline and say what he said after last year's deadline. We didn't want to come off as desperate. We didn't want to make a move that would help us solely this season. And hey, in some reasons and in some focuses, in some ways, you were right. But this season I can't nod my head on anymore. A quote like that from your star player, Paolo Banchero. Paolo Banchero's frustrated. You now have to start asking yourself who else from this Orlando Magic bunch is frustrated. You as an Orlando Magic fan, you're frustrated. And here's the question that I have now. Is getting healthy the only factor to all this? Franz and Jalen, if they get healthy, Does this make Orlando a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference? As I sit here right now talking to you, I don't think so. Getting under the cap is one thing, and Philip Rossman-Reich has talked about that. But are there players that you can acquire before the February 5th deadline that can help turn things around? If there are those of you who believe that there's a coach that can turn things around, is that being identified? Again, right now, I'm saying I don't know. And I desperately want to, because I'm almost ready to hit the panic button on this season. Because like Paulo has said, and I don't know if he's talking to Jeff Weltman or talking about head coach Jamal Mosley and the coaching staff, but he didn't think, maybe the team hasn't also thought, the fan base hasn't thought, that they would be dealing with the same problems in which they have in years past, especially with a team that has as much talent in which they have. But, as the saying goes, hard work beats talent. Talent fails to work hard. And the last thing I want is for one of your 2 franchise talents wanting out of what I believe is a good situation because he can't see the light at the end of the tunnel with this organization. But those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear yours. Get in the comments section. Vent to me, Magic fans. What's the deal with Orlando in this season? And what are some changes that need to be made that can help the team immediately and for years to come? Now, let's welcome in Ryan Kaminsky, Orlando Magic on SI. I want to get into it. I'm going to allow him to be a doctor here. What is the problem with the Orlando Magic? Can they fix it this season? Also, the Karl Anthony Towns rumors. Should the Orlando Magic go big game hunting and acquire the all-star big man? We discuss all that and more. Let's welcome in Ryan Kaminsky. Our next guest does phenomenal work for Orlando Magic on SI NBA, even does a more sensational job covering your Orlando Magic. He is Ryan Kaminsky, so gracious to give us a few moments to discuss the latest on the ball club, a ball club that seems to be reeling right now. Ryan, thanks so much for the time, man. How are you?
Man, it was we're coming off a rough one, that's for sure. But I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm better than the Magic, that's for sure. At least right now, at least today.
Well, I mean, let's kind of get right to the meat of the matter. I mean, the loss of the Charlotte Hornets, rough way to start a contest after coming back from London. The opposition was in complete control the entire matchup. Just break down what you saw from the onslaught that we witnessed at the Kia Center on Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, right from the get-go, the Hornets just started hitting some tough shots right away. I mean, after a back-to-back loss where they were missing a lot of shots, we had a LaMelo versus Lonzo matchup, and Lonzo, lack thereof, I should say, Lonzo didn't play, and LaMelo couldn't hit a shot last night, and then tonight he just comes out swinging, and he ends up 6 of 12 from the field and 4 of 8 from 3, and he just hit some really tough ones early. Coach Mosley kind of said afterward how the team seemed to just kind of take those hits and maybe let it deflate their energy and hustle levels a little bit. And it seemed like, when the Hornets were hitting their threes early and the Magic were not hitting theirs early, it was a little deflating enough to kind of zap some of their defensive energy, and they let it get away from them. And it just kind of got out of hand there a little too quick.
What did you make of Paolo Banchero's comments last night?
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely interesting and kind of telling of where the team is at. Someone on Twitter, I guess, noticed that, essentially Coach Mosley was kind of talking about the defense and Paulo was talking a little bit more about the offense, I think. And those two things at its core are, what the team needs to work on. They're just comments about kind of reality that the offense hasn't been flowing too great during his time here. But, the defense has been great the last 2 years. So, to Coach Mosley's point, this is a top 2 defense the last 2 seasons. Why are we not taking pride in defense anymore? Why are we down to 15th? Even with, Franz and Jalen Suggs out, 2 all defensive level type defenders, they're that good. So you are going to get a drop off there. But even with that, and we can talk about that a little bit more about why, but that's from his perspective. But to Paulo's point, the offense hasn't really been figured out either completely as a team, and everyone has a little responsibility in that. I think Paulo isn't quite the same scorer, tough shot maker he was the last few years, and he's become more of a playmaking hub within this offense, and that's working for him. But it's not, and he's actually pretty efficient most nights. Like his true shooting percentage and his turn is higher than normal. His turnovers are lower than normal. Like he's making good team first decisions. Right. But people are just kind of nitpicking every little bad shot he takes here and there, where he used to be kind of lethal option in that mid range department, and maybe a little less confident this season. Just hasn't had the same bounce, but he has kind of been getting back into form as of late. And really, I think the team's probably I don't view last night too much. I don't put too much weight into it, only because of all the travel the team has been. I kind of asked Coach Mosley before the game if it was a little bit of a trap game, because of really more about the schedule. I realize that term can kind of not give enough credit to the Hornets as well. So that's what he wanted to make sure to clarify. He literally said, this isn't a trap game. They smacked us the last time they were around, and they kind of did it again this time around. But I think more of it was about the travel. I mean, this team, when you think about it, went from a Sunday against New Orleans at home to a Thursday in Germany to a Sunday in London, and then a Thursday back in Orlando. Right. And, that's however many 10 or so days of travel to 3 different countries, flying around quite a bit. It's a lot. So you get a team that technically the Hornets have the number 1 offense the last 15 games, so they're definitely on a hot kind of run here, but they're not great in record, and you're not thinking, it's not like the Thunder are in town and you think you have to necessarily give it your all. But that's what Coach Mosley kind of clarifies nowadays, is you got to take every team seriously in the NBA nowadays. I think parity is as big as ever, and with the 3-ball and the talent in this league, any team can win any night. So the Hornets showed up. They came out firing. The Magic kind of got a little deflated right away, and it got away from them fast.
Now, be the Magic doctor for us if you can here, Ryan, because I've tried to fight it as probably you have as media members and also as a fan of the team. It just feels that the vibe is somewhat off, and I don't know if it's health, if it's coaching, if it's front office, if it's rotations, if it's player fit. I don't have the answer, but I believe that many would agree that this is a better team than their record would indicate. They just haven't played like it necessarily. Just in your opinion, why is it that?
Yeah, and we hit on some of it already, and I think, you can kind of look at this season glass half full, glass half empty very, very easily. And to start with, the glass half empty is the expectations. You make the Bain trade, all the first-round picks. You're thinking a win-now move. We're going to see a contender overnight. The offense and the shooting is just going to magically fix itself. And it didn't happen overnight. But really, I think the root of everything, as Magic fans will point out and beat to death, is the injuries. I think that is the first thing you got to start with. Jalen Suggs, his net rating on the floor is absurd this year when he's available, and he hasn't been available that often. Franz was carrying this team when he was the number 1 option. There was a 20-game stretch where Franz and a little bit of Suggs and a little bit of Paulo were all available here and there, kind of not all at once, but throughout, while Franz was available the whole time, where the team was top contender level good, top 12 on both sides of the ball. Things were good again, the game had been solved, and now the world's falling apart again. So that's sports for you.
Right.
But when it comes to that, but that's just expectations. A little bit of more parity, I think, as well than maybe every team was expected, because basically everyone but the Thunder, Pistons, maybe the Celtics are a little disappointed in their season compared to preseason expectations, maybe. And maybe, Spurs are probably pretty happy with theirs, I guess, too. But there's a handful there. But there's a lot of disappointed teams because I think parity has a part of that, too, where the teams are just much better nowadays, where maybe the expectations that, one thing is going to fix everything isn't quite the case. So glass half empty is they still haven't quite landed on a full offensive identity, and the defense has slipped a little bit while they've been searching for it. But glass half full is they've done a lot of the travel already this season.
Right.
So they're looking at about 9 away games left on the West Coast, and that's it the rest of the way out of like the 40 games or so. So it's like 1 or 2 trips. And the rest of the games are either at home or against a short travel Eastern Conference opponent. So no more Europe trips or Vegas trips and all that. So less travel. Suggs and Franz are kind of like day to day, so they should be back any day now. Okay. And in theory, you get to see this full squad. And with the full squad, not only do you get the 5th best starting lineup in the NBA back healthy, but everyone just falls into place with their role. You get Franz and Paulo as these lead initiators. You get Bane and Suggs and Black as the secondary three-point shooting creators off the ball. You get Wendell play finishing, Mo Wagner play finishing, and the rookies exploding and stuff. Like there's a best case scenario where the Magic are currently the 7th seed, despite that very bad loss last night, and they're only. Last I checked, it was about 4 games back or 5 games back maybe of the 2 seed. So, there's a very realistic scenario where they can earn their way to home court advantage in the regular season and win a playoff series. And that, to me, is a successful season and basically meets all their goals for this first season. Just a little bit of playoff experience, get their toes wet in the playoffs, and really find a groove on what their identity is going to look like. Because I really think they've only scratched the surface of how good this offense can be, and it's really going to be how long of a window will the team and the coaching staff get to really do it before injuries and the kind of the noise of the fans kind of, depending on the market, the fire and noise of the outside fans can really turn these types of situations into boilerplates that go over the top.
Right.
But I think in Orlando, everyone is relatively safe and long-term patient enough from top to bottom in this organization that they want to see this thing through. And, it's worked well enough in a large sample size, especially defensively, with the caveat of injuries that, there's still a best-case scenario for this season where they can get some playoff experience and just, brush it off as injuries and maybe figure out a few more things with this offense, because I do think there's just a little bit more experimentation that could be done, but it's tough because you got to win games while you're doing it.
You brought it up talking about the potential of one piece maybe swaying the entire season and outlook for the Orlando Magic. We all like playing fantasy games, and Karl Anthony Towns is the latest in said game, as a report came out that the Magic are interested in the All-Star big. I don't know if I make that move for several reasons, but I want to know from you, is that a move that Orlando this season should consider making?
I like Towns as a player and root for him and his story, and because he's a great talent, one of the best shooters in the league, especially as a big man. But I'm a have to say no on that one for a few reasons. For some of what you said, but it just kind of feels like Vucevic 2.0. Like we just kind of tried this. Like that's the first thing that comes to mind is like if you're gonna be a floor stretching center, I just can't do it again without the defense. Like it was too many. It was too rough all those years. So there's that. But beyond just that is I think Cat can be a part of a winning system, but it's hard to make him your lead rim protector stretch as the 5. And if you're playing him, I don't know who would be in this trade, but if you're playing him with like Franz and Paulo and in the front court, then there's not really any natural rim protector there. So I'm a little worried that the defense would just kind of crumble of whatever the identity was in the first place. So, how it even works salary wise, like, I have no idea. Like, it does make a little more sense that maybe this would be a 3-team trade where Orlando is just dumping a player, because that's what actually seems like they're going to do with this trade line, is just maybe move one of – it seems like they're going to try to get under the tax and save some money long term, stay more flexible, and move maybe one of the young veterans like Tyus Jones or Bataze or Jonathan Isaac. Those are the names that have kind of popped out around as trade rumor candidates, and it makes sense for a handful of reasons between the depth on the roster and their salaries and kind of the long-term plans of the team. That's just kind of how the market works, and they kind of need to shed like one salary. So it could be one odd man out, and having that player like thrown into a trade like that makes a lot of sense, where salaries need to be matched and certain things need to be met to make the trade work. Because like there's no way to actually make the trade happen without giving up one of the 4 big stars, and I don't think Orlando would have any plans to give up Suggs, Spain, Franz, or Paulo for Cat, even if, many might think he was well worth throwing someone in. I just don't really see it.
Let me throw this out to you. This is FanDuel Sportsbook, the mock trade in which they've brought up Karl Anthony Towns. The Magic would receive Karl Anthony Towns. The Knicks would receive Jalen Suggs, J.I., Jet Howard, and a 2026 second-round pick.
It's just too much for me. I'm not giving up Suggs out here, but I get why, I guess they're floating it around. Suggs is it's basically a total shift of the identity. It's like if you want to go from the energetic hustle play identity of Suggs to an offensive-minded, like try to outscore you every night offense with Cat, like that's kind of what you're trying to do. And I vaguely see the idea of let's get a star stretch 5 for more shooting next to Franz and Paulo and Bane even, and really unlock some of the shooting. But at a certain point, you're just doing too big of a trade-off with the defense, where you're losing the identity that got you there. But it's tough. I actually think Wendell in these conversations, like, he gets buried a lot, but Wendell is like the unsung hero of this Magic team. He does all the dirty work, and his versatility on both ends just is perfect to me for what this team needs in that position, and it's shown in the starting lineup net rating. He's very easy and malleable to play with and change his role on the fly, whatever the team needs. He brings it every night for this team. So on both ends, at least his versatility is very reliable, one of the more consistent aspects. I think his two-way versatility is more reliable in a playoff series than someone like Cat over time, like at his position. Like Cat can bring more offensive impact and go off for one night, so that could be a factor as well if he's the third or fourth option. But, it depends on the context of the team, I think.
All right, Ryan, before we let you go here, just a couple more for you. What are your early keys to victory for the Orlando Magic as now they look to put the Charlotte loss behind them, and they'll be welcoming in the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Kia Center here over the weekend?
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell, of course. Number one, or one of the best scorers, I should say, in the league on the ball, especially as a creator. Mobley's dynamic, but maybe having a little bit of a down year compared to last year explosion. So I would definitely say start with just kind of forcing Donovan to be a passer and get the ball out of his hands. That's always one thing. They're looking at their 4 factors real quick. They're 22nd offensively at drawing fouls and 19th defensively at fouling. So, the Magic winning the free throw margin there, drawing fouls themselves while not fouling defensively, are kind of a way for them to play to some strengths. But the Cavs are pretty middle of the pack or above average at everything, which makes them a very good team. So they're definitely in a little more of a groove, but only 2 more wins than Orlando, despite +5, or they're 12th in point differential and Orlando's 17th in point differential on the season. So definitely start with locking down D. Mitch, throw Anthony Black at him. Hopefully you have Franz or Suggs back, a little more depth there to throw at him, and see if you can get Paulo and Bane downhill drawing fouls, because that's really the core of this offense at the moment, is just get the main guys going downhill to draw fouls, because they're great at that, even if it's like, it feels clunky and it feels like not much is happening, but like Paulo is creating a good shot for himself every time he goes down, and Paulo, Bane, and Black are basically drawing the second most free throws, or leading the team to drawing the second most free throws of any team in the league, if not the most, depending on the night. They just do it in grinding out ways of they're at their best forcing turnovers and running off them, and getting downhill in the paint, drawing fouls, creating offense at the rim. Not so much kicking, even though you would think they do, and they still obviously do at times, but they really make their money scoring at the rim and drawing the fouls on the way there. So focusing on that on offense to win the free throw margin and contain D-Mitch should be some keys.
All right, Ryan, man, before we let you go, just let the listeners know how they can get in contact with you, your great work, what you're doing with the Orlando Magic on SI, and other things you have going on.
Yeah, well, I'll have to remember these keys tomorrow when I'm writing the keys to the game for Magic on SI. I do a pregame article every game, and I also cover the team on the ground, pregame, postgame press conferences with Magic on SI, a subsection of Sports Illustrated there. Trying to, hit Magic fans with quick hitters of new information, of quotes and stats and film breakdowns and plays to learn more about the team and storylines and player development that's interesting. And find me on at Beyond the RK on Substack and YouTube and the Switch Theory website, where I host the Learning Basketball podcast. So find me all over.
Ryan, I know that this was completely last minute, but thanks so much for being flexible with us, and hopefully we can do this again sometime down the road.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks a ton. Can't wait.
A big thank you to Ryan Kaminsky, Orlando Magic on SI. Does a great job covering the team, giving us great insight into the ball club as now they look to put that loss behind them from the Charlotte Hornets, now focusing on the Cleveland Cavaliers. They will face them on Saturday and then face them again on Monday, as the team will travel to Cleveland. You're almost at the second half of the regular season. Dante Marchitelli did say it at halftime during the Hornets game. You also heard Ryan Kaminsky say it. A lot of things are in front of this ball club. They're not that far away from being in one of the top 4 seeds within the Eastern Conference, but the time is starting to tick. I just do not believe you can go through another trading deadline not making a move if you're the Orlando Magic. And I'm not saying that you go big game hunting and getting a guy such as Karl Anthony Towns, but we talked about it a couple of episodes ago. Is there a smaller move in which you can make that is going to be able to help this team? I believe that there is, and I think hearing Paolo Banchero and his comments last night against the Charlotte Hornets as we taped this on a Friday, I think that may have been the panic button in which he was pressing figuratively. And by pressing the panic button, I just mean this guy is saying that he's frustrated. Again, like many Orlando Magic fans are frustrated, and changes just do have to be made. I don't know where, but if you can start with the roster and bringing in certain players that can help this team in the second half of this season, you may find yourself in a good spot. I don't believe that this is just a bad couple of games that this team has had. I believe that this is something that needs to be looked at. Hopefully Jeff Weltman and company can go under the hood of this ball club and try to fix these problems before February 5th. That is going to do it for us here on this Magic Moment. We always have to thank you guys for giving us a couple of moments of your time. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We will be at the game against the Cleveland Cavaliers on Saturday, trying to give you guys some great coverage in-game, pre-game, and post-game, and you can find that all right here on 1010XL Magic. A huge thank you to Ryan Kaminsky. I'm RJ Saunders. Go Magic, and we'll talk again next week.